Um, uh, yeah. So I just want to say, first of all, really respect your wisdom. So glad to come here and ask you some questions. Um, the main one I wanted to ask was, and I think you kind of touched on this earlier, even with the Calvinist debate, but it reminded me. A lot of atheists will make the claim that God is the progenitor of evil, that creates evil by
Okay.
the, and then we'll say like, no, he doesn't create evil. Evil is somewhat like the absence of good. So God creates good. Humans are the absence of good, and he says, yeah, well, he allows the absence of good to exist as a concept.
So I don't know. I don't understand your question. You just went on. What's your
Yeah.
question?
So I guess I'm curious on your take on that argument that atheists make that God creates evil by allowing the absence of good to exist.
So you want me to spend like 2 hours on unpacking the problem of theodicy and why God would create moral agents with the power to make choices. Otherwise, it would then mitigate against him being truly loving, because loving, if it's compelled, then it's not truly loving. And you want to spend another 2 hours on that answer question that I've already responded to?
Gotcha. If you've already responded, I'll go and dig for that. That
So you're the atheist, right? So I said, okay, let's presuppose God exists and God's love, nature is loving. If God creates sentient beings and compels them to love him, would that be truly loving from the perspective of God being the greatest conceivable being, and therefore is love the greatest conceivable love there is?
No, it would be fake. It would not be real love.
Okay, so what if I then say, then God creates sentient beings in such a way where they are deceived into thinking that they are truly responding to God out of their own choice to love, because love, if it's coerced, then we'd call that cosmic grape, not true love. But he designed them in such a way with these false beliefs that they are actually choosing to love him, but he designed them in a way in which they cannot but love him, but they don't know that. Now, if God is a God of truth and cannot deceive, and God does not deceive himself, would he then truly be the God of truth?
No.
So then, if God wants to create, and he does, then what kind of agents would he create? The very kind of agents that brought evil into the world. So, how many more choices does God have besides those three?
Yeah. No. He would have. Yeah. So, and taking it from where we're currently at, that we do have free will, that we do have a choice to love or not love God, that we do have a choice to
Well,
choose.
we're dealing with reality. We exist.
Yeah.
If we didn't exist, we wouldn't be having this conversation, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Since we exist, we have to account for our existence, and we have to account for why men have this innate belief or innate desire or an innate understanding of morality. Because notice the atheist is saying there's so much evil in the world, which again shows that they are being inconsistent with their worldview, because as atheists, if they're naturalistic materialists, there is no objective evil. So what makes them realize there's evil and they decry it and hate it if it's not because God created them in their image, in his image?
Right. They need some standard to say what is evil, what isn't evil, and they tend to just default to the Christian standard, or I'd say
Yes,
even just the
they
God.
borrow our worldview. Yes. So I'm not even trying to bring out that inconsistency. Say, okay, let's now, because you're asking me the question, so we're assuming a theistic worldview because that's what you're assuming. Why would God create?
Right.
So let's see how many options God has, because reality exists, you exist, I exist. Because if we didn't exist, we didn't have this conversation. So now, how do we account for this existence? A supreme intelligent mind brought into being. You don't believe that, but you're asking me, okay, well, he brought into being. Why so much evil? So, all right, if God is love, as he says he is, if, because we're arguing with the atheist, would God be the greatest conceivable being who exhibits the greatest conceivable love there is if he creates people and compels them and forces them to love him? We said no, right? That would be
Right.
like cosmic grape.
Right.
But if God is the greatest conceivable being, and therefore he is ultimate reality and he is the truth, he is the very definition of truth, and he cannot be untruthful because his very nature is he is the God of truth. could he then create human beings in such a way as to deceive them into truly thinking they're choosing to love him, whereas in reality they were designed to love him and they have no other choice but to do so? But he designed them into thinking deceitfully and dishonestly so that they are actually responding out of their own free will?
Right. I would say that that their choice in loving him is more meaningful if they have the ability to choose otherwise.
No, but that's not what the question was. I'm talking to the atheist. What was my question, the second one? What was the question I'm asking? Because I want the answer, not
right. Okay. From an atheist perspective, then I would have to say that. So from the atheist perspective, they're going to say that that God could still create a situation where they can choose love or maybe less love, but not necessarily evil.
How do you know that?
That would be they don't have a way to back that up, but I'm saying that's what.
How would you know that apart from being omniscient and knowing what is possible and what is not possible? How do you know that? But that wasn't what I asked. So you pretended to listen to me. That's one of my pet peeves. When someone thinks they're listening, they're not, and I waste my breath for 5 minutes. What was the second thing I said? That since God, we're arguing the existence of God and that he created it, then what kind of world would God create if he's truly loving? We answered that one. Then I said, what kind of world would God create if it's truly the standard of truth and he's a God of truth and he cannot be otherwise? Why are you pretending to be listening to me, brother? And you're not getting it because then you just wasted 5 minutes of my life.
Well, maybe I'm having a hard time understanding the question. So
why do you pretend that you understood it the first time?
I thought I understood it, but it appears that I didn't. So
what was the second possible scenario? If I say, if God is a God of truth, and then he created a world of rational beings in such a way, what was that I said? I want to see. Did you pay attention?
He created a world of rational beings.
That he designed them in such a way. What was that such a way?
That they could be deceived into not loving him or searching the truth, but that
you're trying, brother. Can you give me a reason why I should explain it again before I block you? Because you got about 10 seconds. Make a case. 1,000.
I don't have a case for it, Sam. Yeah, I have no case for it.
So why shouldn't I block you then?
I got no case for that either.
So you just give up, right? Give him the white towel?
Yeah, pretty much.
And you're laughing at it?
My case would just be I'm trying and I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but
so you're playing sympathy so that people can feel sorry for you so you can get a lot more love and attention? Isn't that narcissistic?
That would be.
Let me try it again. What was the first argument? If God is truly loving, the greatest conceivable being, and his love is the greatest conceivable love there is, if he were to create people and he forced them to love him, would he be the greatest conceivable being who exhibits the greatest conceivable love there is?
No, that would be equivalent to cosmic grape.
The second one, let's see if you get the second one. If God is a God of truth and he cannot be otherwise, because that's who he is. He's reality. He is the truth. He is the standard of truth. Could God then create a group of sentient beings and design them with the false beliefs that they are choosing to love God, but in reality they're not, because he designed them that they could only choose to love him and yet deceitfully and deceptively embed in their minds that they think they're making a choice to love him, but they're designed to do only that. Would God then be the God of truth?
No, it would be fake truth because they think that what they're doing is choosing to love
him in reality. God, forget them. Would God be the God of truth? They wouldn't know any better.
No.
Because why wouldn't God be the God of truth?
Because he's forcing them to choose. He's not forcing them to choose. He's forcing them to do it. They can't choose to.
Why would God not be the God of truth?
Yeah, I'm struggling with this one.
Because that means, how can he be a truthful God when he creates them with false, deceitful, deceptive thoughts?
He's tricking them, yeah.
So then how can he be a truthful God?
By definition, he's not truthful by tricking them. Right.
But so this is the God we serve. He's the God of truth. He is the standard of truth, and he's a God of love. So then, what other way could he create a world in which he is truly loving and truly truthful, really truthful, and create moral agents, sentient beings, so that they would then respond to his love, the world you live in?
I can't see an option. I personally couldn't. Yeah.
That's the
So
option. So since we exist, there. I mean, if we didn't exist, we didn't have this conversation. Reality exists, so we got to deal with the reality and this existence, and why I have this innate desire to be loved, and why I have this innate moral compass that I decry evil, and I'm aware there's evil. If there wasn't an intelligent mind who created me in this way, so then I tell the atheist, how many options does God have to create? Since he has created, but create in such a way that reflects his true character. If he's truly loving and he's really truthful, what other world could he create?
yeah, I couldn't think of any, but I guess
Neither can they. That's
I
the
was
point.
gonna. Yeah, I was about to ask if you've ever run into
I've
this
never heard
argument.
a response. So
Okay.
that's the point. So that's why
Excellent.
I repeat myself more than once, because I want to sink in. I said it again, but I want to sink in. That's my response. So okay, so then why are you complaining now? Since the world exists in the exact way we'd expect the world to be created if God is truly loving and really truthful.
Right. Yeah, no, I couldn't think of a response to that, and I'm sure that any rational person would struggle at the very least to think of a response.
That's how I said. I'll say, okay, so now what's your problem now? I say, atheist.
Then it's just going to come down to that they have either religious trauma or they just, they have secular hatred towards religion in general.
All right, well, say then you're just telling me your own subjective feelings,
Right.
and you're telling me what you don't like. But since you're not God and you're not the standard truth, you can't then determine or impose your standard on the rest of us because you're not God. You're not the standard truth.
No, yeah. But people like to think that they are. Yeah.
Exactly. That's narcissism, brother.
That and they'll a lot of people, like you mentioned earlier too, they'll appeal to like natural law. They'll try to appeal to nature.
What
Oh
natural
well,
law? You mean unaided, unguided processes,
right.
right? And mutations that have no intelligent mind guiding them has embedded within it law.
Yeah, that's great.
What are you talking about, natural law? What natural law? Nature, you're telling me, creation came into being, chance processes, natural selection, unguided, unaided by intelligent mind, and yet somehow this unguided, unaided creation all of a sudden magically has inherent within it a set of laws, some which reflect on morality. You're kidding me.
Yeah, I failed to see how it makes sense either.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What do you mean natural law? Natural law? You mean the law that the creator embedded and made part of the natural order of things?
Right.
Well, okay, I agree. God did that, but which God? Now let's find that God. Who is he?
Right. And that's why I love to watch those tag arguments that folks like Jay Dyer make.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is a presuppositional argument.
Right.
Stating that I'm using presuppositionalism, because then they'll say, well, presuppositionalism is viciously circular. But the reality is we all argue from a circle.
Right.
In other words, whether we like it or not, we're all arguing from a set of assumptions. And those assumptions we take for granted as true.
Right.
So then we have to then question, why do you feel that your set of presuppositions or assumptions are objectively true as opposed to mine?
And
Anyway,
they
it goes down a rabbit hole, but I hope that helped you understand.